3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a lift.
The book, in no particular order. To my father, Richard Williams. Rest in peace. This young woman is a genius. She is really gifted. I can't believe she's just 13 and can use language that way. My personal favourites were I Dare You and Deepest Fear just because of the raw honesty. If I had any advice for her, it would be 2 things. 1, keep reading as widely as possible, all kinds of poetry, novels, scripts and plays. 2, write as widely as possible. Start playing with short stories, narrative poetry, plays or film scripts, and apply her poetic gifts to all sorts of forms, because who knows what she may come up with, and it's best to start early. Thanks for sending these, and I am happy to help further if need be. Bigger up for me. Kingslee, Daley, Akala. Deep Thought paused for a moment's reflection. Tricky, he said finally. But you can do it. Again, a significant pause. Yes, said Deep Thought. I can do it. There is an answer, said Fook with breathless excitement. Yes, said Deep Thought. Life, the universe, and everything. There is an answer, but I'll have to think about it. Douglas Adams, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think the things that make you such an outstanding person are the traits that make you question yourself. You are earnest and thoughtful, interested in so many different areas, and the habit of always wanting to be analytical can lead you to doubt yourself. I expect all writers experience this. I think as you have the gifts that you have been given and worked so hard to develop them, you should, as long as you enjoy it, keep writing. Let honest criticism help you to develop. Signed, the English teacher. But the tricky bit comes the next morning for the dancer himself when he wakes up and discovers that it's Tuesday at 11 a.m. and he is no longer a glimpse of God. He's just an aging mortal with really bad knees, and maybe he's never going to ascend to that height again, and maybe nobody will ever chant God's name again as he spins, and what is he then to do with the rest of his life? This is hard. This is one of the most painful reconciliations to make in a creative life. Perhaps I will never ascend to the heights that people have told me I will ascend to, and if I don't, such people will be sorely disappointed, since they wasted many hours becoming acquainted with some small part of me and not the significant majority of what made me a human. And their secret bet, as it were, that I would become an accomplished young person they could tell all their friends about would be lost. Those are the very people I pity, since I do not believe the worth of a person to be measured by what unusual capabilities they possess. And if I do, if I ascend to the heights that many have expected me to ascend to, I will at some time feel the reaches of my mind weaken as I age the way all humans must. But maybe it doesn't have to be quite so full of anguish if you never happened to believe in the first place that the most extraordinary aspects of your being came from you. But maybe if you just believed that they were on loan to you, from some unimaginable source for some exquisite portion of your life to be passed along when you're finished with somebody else. While these gifts are at my disposal, and while I have on my side the luxury of time and the privilege of optimism, I want to write stories for the many women who have suffered at the hands of men, the individuals who have suffered at the hands of people who have interpreted scripture as a license to wreak havoc on an individual's personal life. I want to write about faith and the numinous beauty of being alive. I want to write for the many people who are unable to sever themselves from faith entirely, but need strength to articulate the problematic aspects of strict ideology and religion, who must contend with a conflict between independence and scripture. All of the people mentioned and others speak to the many multitudes I have had to soothe within myself. And while I cannot name the many who sacrificed their lives in the name of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I can honor them by means of the stories I tell, the decisions I make,
and the losses I will undoubtedly have to reconcile away from the comfort of pen and paper. An Uphill Battle. Excerpt from There Are More With Us manuscript. I am a man of fortune, and I must seek my fortune. Henry Avery, Uncharted 4. I had waited my entire life to be granted passage into adulthood, but as the terrain lay before me, a flock of voices came to the forefront of my mind. Voices that belonged to those who had conflicting ideas of what qualified one as an adult and whether I was truly ready. As the voices rose to a crescendo, I could only consider the very many reasons I was ill-equipped for adulthood. Despite an unwaning assurance in my armor of intellect, the remarks gathered the strength of a poison-tipped pickaxe, and in one visceral instant I received a mortal blow that rendered me a small heap of wounded flesh. In his book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, Joseph Campbell outlined 12 story beats that are essential in the monomyth of the hero's journey. One story beat is called The Darkest Hour. This point in the story entails the physical, emotional, and spiritual decline of the hero or heroine, so much so, the audience doubts that the hero will rise to the challenge of rectifying the disarray prompted by the presence of great evil. Fiction writing in particular falls into a variety of genre conventions, but unlike in fiction, life does not bend to the plot guides of conventional narratives. In this instance, I was without the comfort of knowing how the story would end, and by extension, without the accompanying catharsis that is tied to such comfort. Despite the barrage of conflicting opinions, despite the enchanted weeds that seemed to curl themselves around my calves and tug at my ankles, despite the sluggish darkness that had, by then, encroached on my sense of self and a seething agony I did not think it possible to withstand, I needed to make it to the summit, to see the sweet sun stretch its arms across the golden scenery, to selfishly indulge in the knowledge that I had done it, that I had ventured through the uncertainty of tribulation with both my wonder and curiosity intact, that I had stepped into womanhood as bright-eyed and charming as they come. I needed to see it, to know that the arrival was just as beautiful as they all say, even if such an opportunity was granted only once. Author's note. Aldrin's footprints remind me of the clay sculpture I made for my mother. It was an imprint of my hand from when I was a girl, bejeweled with an assortment of colourful stones. I remember rolling up my sleeve and pressing my hand into the modelling material. I remember giving it to my mother too, and the undeniable joy that I saw spread from cheek to cheek. I can't help but think that Aldrin thought the exact same thing as me when he took a picture of his boot imprint. Look at me, he must have thought. Look at what I've done.